You know, here's the thing about South African teams playing continental football. A lot of the time, the mistakes that they make, the little weaknesses they show, are not punished in our league. And the one rule of playing continental football in Africa is that it doesn't matter how good you look, it doesn't matter what type of reputation you come in with, it doesn't matter in this case how badly your opposition is playing as well. The one who makes the least mistakes will win the game. Masry was at fault once, rarely, and Dylan Solomons put them to the sword. And Kaizer Chiefs twice made mistakes that were punished. You know, when you watch that game, you watch two teams that are really unstructured. I made the joke during my live that it felt like I was watching Chiefs playing Chiefs because the two teams mirror each other so well. They mirror each other in attack, where the moment they get into the final third, they're not sure what to do, even though they've got 5-6 players there, and it ends up being such a congested area, both sides, that they can't find that pass that they need to find in order to unlock the defense, and it becomes a tibang at the back. Both teams have no midfield play, so reluctant to play the ball up the middle. In fact, it was so funny to watch Mtetwa get put into his normal position where he gets the ball, there's nobody around him to actually, help him out. The same thing was happening on the other side with, I think, number 21, Mugisho, something like that. You still have wingers who, instead of trying to play the pass or trying to play the cross or the midfield trying to play the ball in, they'd much rather put their heads down and run at defenses and try and hit 2 or 3 defenders and try and get past them, which I guess in Solomon's case worked. But for the most part, you can't see that actually being something that you can lean on. Now, I want to give the Chiefs coaches benefit of the doubt, because at some point during that game, I thought to myself, maybe the plan is to unleash Abu Modi, is to unleash Abu Dupriz onto the game so that you can then change it in the second half and maybe inject some energy into it, right? I'm going to try to give them credit because that starting lineup was very odd and very unbalanced. I've never liked Dupriz playing on the right-hand side. Just because a player is fast doesn't mean you put him on the wing, because even if he does everything right, Dupriz does not have a final ball. Dupriz does not have a final cross. He does not have a final pass when he gets into position. That's if he gets into the position, because he's so busy covering Solomons that even when we counterattack, the fastest player that you have on the pitch finds himself running yards away from the defense and having to catch up in order to go and score. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to have Modi and Shabalala on the pitch, because those two players, for some reason, instead of overloading a side, they start interchanging. And then they find themselves in situations where they are one-on-one with 3 defenders instead of having the help, which is meant to be there because Umdu is vacating the 10 position to go and play on that side. So logically, you'd think that they'd have more players on that side. It would be a Modi Mdu across, and you'd be able to isolate that right back. But they don't do that. They find themselves in 1v. It's so interesting to watch a team that has 5 players in attack, yet there's no one to pass to, yet there's no one who's opening up. That's what was happening in the first half, and it ended up being the game that Chiefs plays in SA. A game where you are hoping for the ball to drop in a certain space so that somebody can shoot. You have Igodaro, who's shown himself to be a great target man, who's shown himself to be somebody who makes great runs. There's a run that Igodaro makes every single time. Straight down the middle. But our midfielders, when they get the ball, their first instinct is to go wide. And that wide is what isolates. There's a lot of times where our midfielders pass the ball where they're facing. They don't know what's happening behind them. They don't know what's happening next to them. So Ighodaro makes this key run. It was a run that Cirino picked up with Da Silva. Da Silva hit the side netting in the last game. But it's a run that if our midfielders could just make that decision, it would be great. It feels like they've been told all the time, when you get the ball, you go wide, you spread the ball. You look at the goal that Dylan Solomon scored, a great goal from him, especially because he was having quite a poor game. But that motion is also what causes the problems at the back. Those two, even though Kwinika, I've said, came in with some great leadership, you're still seeing some of the old things popping up. So you're still seeing Miguel, when we are under pressure, jumping out. He jumps out to the danger without the rest of everybody knowing where to stand afterwards. And the goal that was scored, or the penalty that was given, came from a similar situation from the Skukune one. If you remember the Skukune one, where Grobler wins the first ball, they started playing the ball directly in. And because your center back is out, the cover has to be very strong. Solomon's is not quite there. Mtetwa is forever chasing, and Kwinika's too slow to get there. If you can play a ball directly in, you will beat Miguel and beat everybody with that one ball, and a penalty was given away. And we saw shades of this in that half, where there was a ball that was played across, where the Masry player gets there, he plays it across, there was a pass across, saved by Peterson from the shot that came. But you ask yourself, no, not saved by Peterson, it was Cross that came in with a sliding tackle last minute. You ask yourself, how are my two centre backs standing like this? So if you imagine Nalipali, they're standing like this, they've both been beaten by the ball, and now your left back has to come from wherever he comes from to come and make that sliding tackle. And if something is not done, if he misses that thing, this man is alone. There's some communication lapses in Chiefs' defense that, like I said, might not be taken advantage of elsewhere. Because as poor as Al Masry was, I'm not saying they were any good, but as poor as Al Masry was, they got 4 shots on target. 4 clear-cut shots on target where Peterson had to be called into action. I remember when we scored the 1-1, I asked on the live, have they learned their lesson? Will they be able to try and mitigate some of these situations? And they were under pressure for a very long time. For the first 5 to 10 minutes in that second half, when Al Masry came back, and you could tell that, they were clicking. Because in the second half, Al Masry came out and said, okay, what we're going to do is overload. So if you started seeing, they started actually doing the thing where they were coming together and saying, okay, we need 2 or 3 players to play in that space so that we can put Solomon's under pressure should he push up. And if he pushes up, we can bring Miguel in. I mean, Miguel and I think Kwinika both got yellow cards from very weird positioning for a centre back. But in any case, we're gonna overload that side. They tried to do it on the other side. I think when Velepai came in, because Velepai is a static winger, he's a winger. They couldn't quite press cross the way that they wanted to. But you could tell that they came in and said, okay, we just need the 1 goal to go in. And they got the penalty. They said the 1-0, Chiefs went 1-1, and then they played that ball in from the corner. Obviously a mistake from Miguel, that they score and make it 2-1. So it was a sloppy game from both teams. Both teams struggled to connect very well. It's only when they upped the tempo. We saw it for the first 10 minutes of the second half, when Al Masry upped the tempo, it seemed like they started clicking together and looking more dangerous. And Chiefs, obviously, when Vilagazi came on, and Velepai came on, and Silva came on, for 10-15 minutes now, they were up. And you could tell that they're a tempo team. What I'd love to see from Kaizer Chiefs, don't make like-for-like changes for the sake of it. Because I think all they did was swap legs. in that second half. They just swapped legs and they continued doing exactly what they did. I'd love to see Abo Igodaro used more in a crossing sense. I'd love to see Silva and Igodaro together sitting on a defense with that educated left foot Gamfundo, right? I'd love to see that with a Velepai who's active on the other side. Also, not a good game from him. Slipping a lot, losing the ball a lot. So I think, just to wrap this up, this is what is to be expected from not fixing the problems that you face week in, week out. Agent on my live show, he says it every time. Death, taxes, Mikel getting a yellow card. I said it early in that game that probably going to get a penalty from the lack of discipline in Kaizer Chiefs. To give them credit, in that second half, having Velepai be a static winger forced him to play centrally a little bit more. And we saw a little bit better from Mdu. We saw that, okay, maybe Chiefs needs to play with a 10. Chiefs has not played with a 10 for years now. All of our 10s go out to the side, go and help the wingers. I don't know why. But if we can just get somebody there, not only does it help the 10 position or to have somebody to play, it also helps the 8. Because a guy like Cele finds himself chasing the game because now he feels like Mela Valele Cap, Twanza Keneko spacing say some do, ham do at Amaili. He must just slot in there and it leaves Umtetwa alone a lot of the time. We need tactical discipline within our teams. We need tactical discipline. We need to make sure that the players play the positions they are meant to play. Introduction of Velepai literally stopped the right-hand side attack simply because he's disciplined to stand there. But when you have both Modi and doing this, yet no one is still covering cross, you're going to come to a lot of problems. The Aiden who's out injured gets into problems because of that. Cross gets into problems. There was early in the first half where he was pushed up. I think he took the foul because if he hadn't taken that foul, there was a man running on the other side. And that would have meant that Quinika would have to go and intercept. And we know what happens when the centre backs have to leave their roles. It's the small little mistakes. It's the small little things that occur every week that are going to kill you. And Al Masry was a poor team. Next week, I'm expecting a Zamalek team that holds this trophy to be a much stronger, smarter team. And if Al Masry, for 10 minutes, can read you guys and go, oh, okay, I see. They were so confident in what they were doing in the second half, if you noticed. They were leaving 21 by himself. And they were trusting that the guys who get the ball will not know what to do with it. I love him too, but his decision-making, the final pass, is often off. And in the second half, more specifically, you should have seen a lot more chances where Chiefs was on the counter, Chiefs was on the break, or they just pressed high and won the ball from 21. If better decisions were made, the score would look different. But what's funny about the game is that same with Al Masry, because on their side, there was literally a 3v1 opportunity where they messed it up because they didn't know where to go. That's why I'm like, these were teams of similar strength with similar weaknesses. But Al Masry made the least mistakes in the game. Chiefs goes no points in their first game. It's an away game. You can maybe forgive a little bit. Should have been more of a draw, should have been more of a draw. But it makes the group a lot harder, especially knowing that Konabo Zamalek, Zesco is not going to be easy. So we'll see how this pans out, but hopefully they learn from this excursion. Maybe this is why you stick with the first team that makes sense. You stick with the first team that you know, and maybe you sacrifice a little bit of that performance back home. Because if you do what they did today, you might not be able to get the full reply from your bench. And somebody might make a mistake that takes the game away from you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And if you can, contribute to the channel. There's an account in the description. helps to keep all of this up. But if you can't contribute, guys, please like, please share, please comment, please make sure that you are subscribed and following if you are not. It really does help the channel grow. I'll see you guys on the next one.